Imagine a devastating earthquake striking your city, but with no warning tremor, no initial jolt, just a sudden, catastrophic collapse. No loud rumblings, no warning sirens. What if the ground beneath you simply gave way? This isn't science fiction. It's a terrifying possibility we're exploring today. The silent quake and the hidden horrors it could unleash on a major metropolis. What do you do when the ground beneath you crumbles, but you don't even feel it happening? How do you prepare for something that does not give you the usual signs? A sudden tremor or shaking to alert you that disaster is on its way. In this video, we're going to delve into the concept of a silent quake, examining the potential consequences of this kind of event in an urban environment and the unique challenges it would pose to city planners, emergency services, and the public. A silent quake may seem like a far-off concept, a science fiction tale, but it's not. It's an entirely plausible scenario that, with modern seismic technology and new understandings of tectonic forces, might be closer to reality than we'd like to think. And what happens when such an event strikes a densely populated, thriving city? Let's explore this terrifying, subtle, and often overlooked threat, one that could shake our perceptions of urban resilience and disaster preparedness. To truly understand what a silent quake is and how it could affect a major city, we need to begin with a clear understanding of how earthquakes typically work. Most of us are familiar with the sensation of an earthquake, the ground shaking beneath our feet, the loud rumbling of the earth, and the sudden jarring shifts of movement. These sudden, sharp tremors are the hallmark of what we know as traditional earthquakes. However, a silent quake is different. It's not an event that announces itself with an initial jolt or violent shaking. Instead, it's a slow, insidious shift in the Earth's crust, one that could occur under the city without any immediate or obvious signs. Picture a slow-moving geological collapse that begins beneath the surface of a city, affecting the very foundations of buildings, roads, bridges, and infrastructure. Yet no one feels the ground move. This is a geological event where subtle seismic activity is occurring, but instead of sharp shocks or noticeable tremors, the effects are much more gradual and stealthy. It's as though the Earth is quietly repositioning itself, causing fractures to appear in the bedrock, slowly destabilizing foundations and creating gaps in structures. The impact might not be immediately perceptible to the human eye, but the consequences could be catastrophic. Unlike typical earthquakes, which we associate with sudden devastation, a silent quake might cause major infrastructure damage over a longer period, perhaps even months or years. The ground may be shifting imperceptibly under your feet, causing gradual stress on buildings and roads, cracking their foundations, and causing slow destabilization of otherwise stable structures. One of the most critical aspects of a silent quake is understanding how it differs from the more familiar earthquakes we are used to hearing about. A regular earthquake is a sudden, violent event that shakes the ground with massive energy. When an earthquake hits, it generates seismic waves that travel through the Earth's crust, creating noticeable ground shaking that can be felt even miles away from the epicenter. These tremors are typically preceded by warning signs, seismic activity that can be measured and monitored, often providing some indication of a potentially destructive event. Earthquakes have aftershocks, which give further warning of ongoing movement in the Earth's crust. The impact is sudden, and while the destruction it causes can be overwhelming, at least there's a sense of immediate danger that people can respond to: evacuations, emergency alerts, and in some cases, sheltering in place. In contrast, a silent quake operates more subtly, with seismic movements that are almost imperceptible. It's not the violent shaking of a regular quake, but a slow, grinding motion beneath the surface of the Earth. The geological forces at work are less dramatic, but no less significant. They involve the movement of the Earth's tectonic plates, and sometimes the stress is concentrated in a localized area. This slow shift can go unnoticed for days, weeks, or even longer. But the longer it continues, the more it destabilizes the structural integrity of the surrounding environment. In fact, many cities around the world sit on fault lines and tectonic plate boundaries that could be affected by silent seismic shifts. These shifts are often far too subtle for people to notice, and they can accumulate over time, setting the stage for a catastrophic event that could catch everyone off guard. Unlike the dramatic earthquakes that appear on the news, silent quakes are almost invisible until the damage is already done. Now, imagine that ordinary day in a bustling metropolis, a city known for its innovation, thriving economy, and diverse population. People go about their day, traveling to work, meeting friends for coffee, and attending meetings. There's no sense of impending doom, no warning signs, and the air feels just like any other day. But beneath the surface, the earth is moving, slowly and subtly. A silent quake might start off so imperceptibly that people don't notice the changes at first. Buildings, bridges, and infrastructure that have stood for decades begin to experience small but continuous shifts in their foundation. Roads start to crack. Walls and ceilings in older buildings develop slight fractures. Plumbing and electrical systems begin to experience problems, and people start to notice things moving just slightly out of place. But it's so small it doesn't register as anything out of the ordinary. The threat is buried under the surface, invisible to the naked eye. This gradual degradation, however, is the prelude to something much more catastrophic. As the earth shifts beneath the city, pressure builds in places that seem stable, until the strain on structures becomes too much. Foundations, unable to withstand the unseen changes beneath them, begin to give way. Entire sections of buildings start to tilt or collapse in an eerie, quiet manner without the usual shaking or warning. The result: a disaster that, while lacking the immediate warning signs of a conventional earthquake, causes massive destruction, displaces entire communities, and overwhelms emergency services. The urban infrastructure, reliant on systems built to withstand sudden shocks, is now facing a slow collapse, catching everyone off guard. Silent quakes are particularly dangerous because of their insidious nature. They don't announce themselves with loud rumblings, nor do they send out immediate seismic waves that can be detected by the human body. Instead, the forces behind these quakes are beneath the surface, slow-moving, but with an eventual catastrophic potential. The gradual shifting of the Earth's crust can lead to the formation of small, almost imperceptible fractures that spread over time. The more these fractures widen, the more pressure they put on infrastructure. Buildings built on solid ground begin to suffer from a process called settling, where the ground beneath them sinks or shifts imperceptibly, slowly affecting their foundation. Over time, this weakens the entire structure until one day parts of the building or even entire blocks collapse with little to no warning. In a silent quake, the impact on city life is much more profound than the immediate shaking and destruction of a traditional earthquake. It creates an ongoing crisis that is harder to detect, harder to prepare for, and much more difficult to recover from. People may not even realize the danger they are in until the damage becomes irreparable. One of the greatest challenges posed by a silent quake is the inability to prepare for it. Modern cities are built with earthquake-resistant technologies, reinforced concrete, shock absorbers, and safety protocols designed to mitigate the damage caused by traditional seismic events. But these systems are designed with the assumption that the earthquake will announce itself in the form of sudden violent shaking. Preparing for a silent quake is a different story. It requires a new approach to urban resilience, one that accounts for long-term, subtle changes in the Earth's crust. City planners would need to develop systems to monitor the ongoing stability of the ground beneath their feet, especially in high-risk areas prone to shifting geological movements. The key to addressing the threat of silent quakes lies in better seismic monitoring, early detection of minor geological shifts, and the ability to adapt urban infrastructure to slow, unseen changes. For example, underground sensors could track the movement of tectonic plates or measure subtle shifts in the Earth's crust. Advanced materials and engineering techniques could be used to build more flexible, adaptive structures that can withstand not just sudden quakes, but also gradual shifts in the ground beneath them. While the concept of a silent quake may seem isolated to a specific city or region, the potential global implications are vast. Cities worldwide, particularly those located near fault lines or near active tectonic plates, could face similar risks. For example, major urban centers like Tokyo, San Francisco, Istanbul, and Santiago all sit along active seismic zones, and while these areas are well prepared for traditional earthquakes, they may not be fully equipped to handle the slow, insidious process of a silent quake. Moreover, the economic and social disruptions caused by such an event would be felt far beyond the city itself. Global supply chains, international trade, and tourism could all be affected by the destruction of major urban hubs. Governments, emergency agencies, and international organizations would need to work together to create comprehensive response plans that account for the unpredictability and complexity of these events. The silent quake may seem like an unlikely event, but the reality is that it could be far closer than we think. While traditional earthquakes are sudden, violent, and dramatic, silent quakes offer a much subtler but no less dangerous threat. They can occur without warning, triggering widespread devastation that we are ill-prepared for. As we face an increasingly urbanized world, the challenge is to ensure that cities are resilient, not just to the shaking ground, but to the slow, creeping shifts that could undermine their very foundations. By understanding the potential dangers of silent quakes and rethinking our approach to earthquake preparedness, we can better protect ourselves, our cities, and our communities from the unseen threats that may lie just beneath the surface.